Good afternoon and welcome to the December 21st, 2023 regular meeting of the Forsyth County Commissioners. We're going to begin our meeting today with an invocation from Pastor Frank Robinson, Messiah Community Christian Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Bessie. Pastor, thank you. If you would, if you're able, please stand.
Let us pray. Mark 11:24 says, "Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it and it will be yours." Maker of heaven and earth, we first thank you for this day did not start without us. We thank you for good health and having the activity of our limbs. We thank you for life, health, and strength in these uncertain, trying, and even confusing times. We thank you for these leaders that serve the people of this great county. Let them be ever mindful of the honor to serve your people, allowing them to come into divine alignment for the needs of the people. Bless them to lead morally and ethically. We ask that you will continue to cover this nation as you're calling us back to prayer. Cover the state of North Carolina as we so need your direction to be unified, and cover this great city, Winston-Salem. As we make every effort to hear your voice and every decision to follow your direction, and allow leadership not to lose sight of where their help and strength comes from, for we are but stewards of your authority. So as we near the close of another year, let us reflect on positive moments and seek you for a better and greater year before us. We are grateful for your blessings, knowing that we've done our very best to please you in every manner, effort, and even deed. Motivate us now to be greater and have a greater year in 2024. Now may your hand govern this session. May your goodness and mercy always follow us all the days of our lives as we strive to remain, dwell, and find peace in your presence. This is our prayer, that we touch and agree for this power in agreement. Amen.
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 Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pastor Robinson, thank you for coming, as always. Thank you. Citizens who are wishing to participate in the public session portion of the meeting that are not here, please call us 336-422-1200, and you will be placed on hold until the public session begins. And members of the audience who are here and are interested in participating in the public session portion of the meeting, please fill out a speaker card and give it to our clerk, Ashley Matthews. If you're here we have a public hearing today that is a different matter. It will be first, and we will take care of it, and then we have one very short item, and then we will get to the public comment. So with that said, the first item on the agenda is a public hearing pursuant to North Carolina General Statutes 153A-250 on a proposed ordinance granting a non-emergency ambulance franchise within Forsyth County. Our Emergency Service Director, Joey Hundley, will come forward, give a very brief overview of the request, and then I believe he is going to also introduce our attorney, Gordon Watson, who's going to talk briefly about these comments today. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Chairman Marmon, thank you for having me today. This is an ordinance as we go back to March or May and June of earlier this year for the addition of MEDEX ambulance service to come in and provide non-emergency transport service. That was continued until for 6 months, and so here we are 6 months later. MEDEX is certified and allowed by the state to function and do business in the state of North Carolina. And there are members in the audience that will stand up and discuss needs based on the questions that y'all may have.
Okay, thank you. Our attorney, Gordon Watkins.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm just going to give a brief overview of the process of the public hearing that we're about to embark upon. Pursuant to North Carolina General Statutes 153A-250, the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners has the authority to grant a franchise for the provision of ambulance services within Forsyth County. MEDEX Medical Transport Service, Inc. has applied to provide non-emergency ambulance service within Forsyth County. There are currently 2 franchise providers of such services within the county. The The Board of Commissioners is holding a public hearing today in order to decide whether to grant this franchise based upon two issues. The first issue is, has a need for an additional franchise been established? Specifically, the board must decide if an additional franchise is necessary to assure the provision of adequate and continuing ambulance service and to preserve, protect, and promote the public health, safety, and welfare. And if you decide that there is a need, is the applicant qualified under state law and able to provide ambulance services in Forsyth County? In a minute, the chair will call forward speakers to speak both for and against the application. However, if a speaker in the audience would like to speak only about the need for additional ambulance service, that is also welcomed. A speaker need not have a conclusion regarding whether this particular applicant should be granted a franchise. So, for example, during the time allotted in favor of the application, a speaker may offer the opinion that there is a need for additional service. Conversely, during the time allotted in opposition to the application, a speaker may offer the opinion that there is not a need. So that's just a general overview of the process. I'm certainly happy to answer any questions, but if not, I'll turn it back to the chair.
Any questions from the Board of Commissioners? Thank you very much. This is a public hearing, and speakers will have up to 15 minutes total to speak in favor of this request and up to 15 minutes total to speak in opposition. And I want to make sure we manage our time, because I know there are probably folks here for a couple of issues, and there are obviously there are a lot of people here, but I want all the folks in the public hearing to have an opportunity to speak. So normally, we just keep track of the time of 15 minutes, and many times that time is not needed. If, however, if there one speaker, I hate to limit it to a speaker, but I'd like maybe you could just help me a little bit, because if there are not very many of you that want to speak, for example, in favor, then I can actually sort of judge that, and I want to stick to our time limit. So how many of you think you might be speaking in favor? If you'd raise your hand, that would be greatly appreciated. So it looks like a time, what I'll do is set about 4 minutes on my timer, and that would give 4 speakers about 4 minutes, and we'll see. If you think of something during that time you just want to say it, I'll make sure we get folks, but I want to keep our time very close. So with that said, I'd like to open the floor to those who would like to speak in favor, and I will be pretty strict on the time part, and we can get started. And when you come up, please just introduce yourself and tell us your address also, your name and address, and we are ready to begin. So anyone who'd like to speak in favor, please come forward.
Dr. Richard Aronson, physician, medical director of care coordination, Atrium Health, Wake Forest Baptist, not speaking in favor of a specific vendor, but to address a specific need on behalf of our patients, and in particular, the timeliness of transport. I think the commissioners are aware that we've been doing, as I believe Novant, under unusual circumstances, our own transports up to between 100 and 150 a month. Our focus is not to address the vendor per se, but to stress upon the fact that our needs are there, and not only must they be available to serve, they must serve timely. At least probably 50 to 60% of our transports occur same day. We're not in a position to plan a day or 2 or even 3 days ahead. So whatever comes of this meeting, I think it's important to understand that we're servicing patients. Many of them have imminent needs, some of which needing to go home to pass on with hospice timely, some of which under timely benefits that if they don't get transported that day, they lose that benefit or they're paying cash. So I just ask the commissioners to keep all of those circumstances in mind. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Another person would like to speak in favor. Yes, please come forward.
Good afternoon, Chairman Martin and members of the board. My name is Stan Fuller. I represent Novant Health here in Winston-Salem. Much like my colleague at Atrium, we have an important part of this transportation discussion is the transportation of our patients when they are ready to be discharged from our facility. And the timeliness of that transportation is critical as it relates to our ability to manage the capacity that is coming into our facility. And when we have delays, then we have delays that are felt by the very patients who may have just been brought to our facility by the ambulance, and we have backups in the emergency department. So to the extent that we can continue to manage that process, which along with our colleagues at Atrium have been able to do so using some of our internal resources, then that is the most important component of this discussion from my perspective. I really can't tell you that whether or not a third franchise will improve that ability to get patients out or not. I'm pretty sure it won't hurt it. So in that context, I'm open to ongoing discussions about how we can continue to make this process move forward. Again, it might not sound like a lot, but when we have 6 or 8 patients a day who are ready to be discharged but have no ability to leave in non-emergency transportation services, it is felt throughout the building, and it poses potential safety risks to our patients who are in need of additional care. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm trying to keep my cumulative total. Please come forward.
Good afternoon. I'm Jeff White. I'm the Chief Operations Officer with MEDEX Medical Transport, and my address is 2001 Downing Street, Southwest, Wilson. Our journey to this moment began 6 months ago, back in June, when we first presented our franchise to come to work inside of Forsyth County. A lot has transpired since then, but yet the core issue still remains unchanged. There's still a need in Forsyth County for the ambulance transports to relieve the hospital systems. Our application was tabled in June due to concerns about competition and its impact on our existing services. While I understand and respect those concerns, we firmly believe that the public needs are what's most important in this system and should be decided on that factor and that factor alone. As expressed back in June by EMS County staff, as well as last Thursday and again today, and as the hospital staff has, there's definitely a need for an additional EMS provider to help this system out as a whole. And MEDEX is more than willing to come in and assist this system with their needs. And thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Commissioners, my name is Richard Rutherford. I'm a consultant. I've worked with MEDEX Medical Transportation for over 15 years. I've also worked in Medicaid services for providers, for hospitals, for assisted living facilities, for nursing homes, etc. I'm not as young as I used to be, and I've used hospital and emergency services myself. Part of what we're talking about here today is not just what is the need today, but are we looking forward out our windshield instead of our rear view mirror? We have managed care coming, opening up many more North Carolinians, 600,000 more North Carolinians, about 46,000 more people here in the great county of Forsyth County. We have people building new facilities. We have what are called tailored plans, which are Medicaid managed care plans for people with mental health or behavioral issues, and this numbers show that those people on a per capita basis need a lot more non-emergency transportation than the average Medicaid recipient. So we have hundreds of thousands of more people going to be receiving potential transportation. And as hard as it is to believe, Forsyth County, when you look at the map of its neighbors, with smaller populations, they have more providers. And the reason they have more providers is that one person not being able to go home and die at home is too many. One person sitting in a hallway in an emergency room unable to go to a bed, and I've been in that situation, perhaps some of you have known someone in that situation. One person who can't go home today because there's no way for them to get home is too many. This is already what I would consider an unacceptable situation. I suggest to you that the statistics we've given to you prove unequivocally that it's going to get more unacceptable unless another provider, or perhaps two, are allowed in here to assist with the needs of the people. And no one is blaming the current providers. We're saying there's just a larger need than that. Thank you very much.
Mr. Rutherford, will you please state your name and your address for the record,
Richard
please?
Rutherford, 4000 Blue Ridge Road, Suite 100, Raleigh, North Carolina. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Joe Houchin. Address is 4350 Lassiter at North Hills Avenue, Suite 350 in Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm the attorney for MEDEX, Medical Transport Service, the applicant. I am hesitant to speak to you today because, frankly, I believe that my client MEDEX is their own best representative. But as I've tracked this matter for approaching a year, I believe a point of order is called for. I believe your county attorney has done an excellent job summarizing the standards, the ordinance, what is actually being considered by the Board of Commissioners with this application. Because I think it is important to remember that we're looking at whether a appropriate application has been submitted. The evidence suggests that it has. The ordinance requires that the applicant meet the state standard, which the evidence confirms that it does. The ordinance also requires that a need be shown for the health, safety, and welfare of the people of Forsyth County. And again, the evidence overwhelmingly shows that that need existed at the time the application was submitted. It shows that the need existed when this matter was heard in June. This need continues to exist today, and in fact, the evidence shows that this need is getting worse and not better. MEDEX is here as a solution to this worsening problem. MEDEX is here to serve the people of Forsyth County, to provide employment opportunities to the people of Forsyth County. And I'm worried, as I have tracked some of the conversation, that we're looking at issues that are unrelated to these very clear standards. And I'm worried for the people of Forsyth County that the needs of existing franchisees, the threat of business interruption is being prioritized over the health, safety, and welfare of the people of Forsyth County as this ordinance was intended to address. Again, WakeMed Medical Transport has submitted a compliant application. They are here to serve the people of Forsyth County. They have a demonstrated track record of meeting the requisite standard and the need, all of which is supported by the evidence on the record, exists today and will continue to exist moving forward. And to ignore this worsening problem is to not only ignore the standards that the Board of Commissioners is required to consider, but ignores the spirit of the ordinance, which is the health, safety, and welfare of the people of Forsyth County. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor? See none, we'll move to those who would like to speak against. And I'm going to set my timer. I think I got a system that worked, and we worked out that worked out well. All right, please come forward.
Commissioners, my name is David Stevens. I'm the owner of Providence Transportation. My address is 7902 Sutherland Drive, Brown Summit, North Carolina. With me, I have April Leonard, our Director of my Operations Manager in our EMS department. Members of the board, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you today about the issue of adding an additional EMS franchise in Forsyth County. I do not believe there is a need for an additional franchise to provide service in the county, and I believe that adding an additional provider would make it difficult for your current ambulance companies to maintain the trip volume needed to support our operations. I want to share some facts to explain my position. We have current availability that does not get utilized. The EMT pool of hires in the area is not large enough to support another company, and our trip volume, primarily hospital discharges, has gone down year over year, while our staffing has remained strong enough to add additional trips. Providence Transportation has been in business for 10 years and provides both non-emergency and emergency transport to residents of Forsyth County and the surrounding areas. Our main office is near Midway, and we have a substation in Winston-Salem. We have only been providing EMS service in Forsyth County since July of 2022. Providence was granted a franchise after a previous ambulance provider went out of business. Since we started working in Forsyth County, we have grown our fleet from 10 ambulances to 16 ambulances, and we have increased our EMS division staff by about 30%. We have shown the ability to respond and grow to the demand. We average 7 ambulances per day in service to this area. Because we have a franchise to operate in Forsyth County, we are compelled to participate in the 911 system. Our teams enjoy participating in 911, and we love the community engagement that providing 911 transports brings to our company. However, 911 transports tend to generate much less revenue than convalescent transports. Therefore, it is vitally important that we have significant convalescent transports to support our business needs. 911 requires 3 units per day to be dedicated to this service, which is roughly 40% of our in-service units on any given day. This leaves us with 3 to 4 units available for convalescent calls such as hospital discharges or individual medical appointments. Although we provide as many units as possible, we struggle to keep our ambulance schedules full. Some days we're busy, but many days we have ample availability to provide transports throughout the day. This week, already through Wednesday, we've had 50 unutilized hours, staffed ambulance hours. Last week, we had 85 hours of available unit time that went unfilled. That equates to 7 ambulance shifts that were available but not utilized. Usually, we only have to turn down trips when we have multiple calls for the same time slot in the afternoon, and this tends to be the most requested time. We've engaged with the hospital discharge planning teams many times to make them aware of our availability, and we regularly reach out to them to let them know that we have open availability on a given day. We also schedule an on-demand ambulance when staffing allows that we purposefully do not schedule trips on in advance to assist with same-day and ED discharges. We've asked the hospitals for meetings so that we could brainstorm with them on how we can better serve them. To their credit, one of the coordinators at one of the hospitals did host a Zoom meeting with many of their case managers where we were able to present our capabilities. However, one of the hospital coordinator managers refused to meet with us. As I'm sure you're aware, the EMT staffing pool is tight in Forsyth County, and there's a well-documented national shortage of EMTs. We hire as often as possible, but there is still not a large enough pool of candidates to select from. As we have grown, we've partnered with local community colleges, raised EMT wages, and increased benefits, including health benefits, to attract and retain EMTs. However, if another provider comes into the area, they will be hiring from that same pool, and it's likely that the existing private providers will lose staffing to the new company. This will only hurt the existing providers' opportunity to staff units, which will affect our ability to provide service to the hospitals. Although 911 demand remains steady, we respond to more than 500 calls per month. Convalescent trip volume is down significantly. This quarter, our convalescent trip volume has decreased by approximately 1/3 as compared to the first 3 quarters of the year. And as I stated earlier, we send emails regularly to the hospitals to let them know that we have availability. If demand increases, we have the ambulances in our fleet to increase our capacity. Recently, I learned that the hospitals were now transporting many of their own BLS transports, even though they don't hold a franchise. This might be a contributing factor to why our volume has decreased.
Could I interrupt you for 1 second?
Yes.
We've gone about 5 minutes. Could you begin to think about wrapping up? And if we still have some time, we have 10 minutes left total. And if we still have some time, you can speak more, but if you could kind of bring this part to a close, we'll give others a chance.
Certainly. If you could bear with me for just about 2 more minutes. Is that too long?
Just go.
Okay. Traditionally, Forsyth County has only had 2 private ambulance providers, and this has been sufficient to meet the needs of the county as well as support the 911 system. It was only when the second provider went out of business that a real need was felt by the community. It took some time to recover from that. We believe that we've filled the gap left by the previous company, and we'd like the opportunity to continue to partner and grow in the county. If another provider is brought in, we think that it will have a significant negative impact on our ability to serve the county as well as we have in the last 18 months. I hope the facts that I've shared with you today are received in the spirit that I wish to convey them. We know this is a free market, and we know we have to earn the trust of our clients and our customers. We're grateful for the opportunity to provide this service in Forsyth County and to Forsyth County citizens. We simply don't believe that Forsyth County has a need for an additional provider. Thank you.
Thank you. Others who'd like to speak in opposition?
Good afternoon, Board. My name is Mike Hoots. I'm the Director and owner of Lifestar Emergency Services, 3475 Meyerly Drive in Winston-Salem. Last week, I think the question came up as to why the delays that the hospitals are reporting. I would start with arguing that things are a lot better today than they were 6 months ago. And I would agree, back in the spring, there was times that we had to push these transports out. We were having staffing issues at that point, and I'll get into that in just a second. But today, I fully believe that we are back to where we were and able to get transports in a timely fashion. Can you call me at 11 o'clock in the morning and expect a 2 o'clock transport? Probably not, okay? I don't have the financial ability to have ambulances just sitting around underutilized. We just can't do it that way. One of the issues that we are seeing today still on delays, and this is especially happening in the emergency departments, when Mr. Rutherford spoke about the new managed care in the Medicaid area. There's a new requirement, new as in the past year or so, that now when a patient is being discharged out of the hospital, the case management team has to call a broker, which is another organization that's not tied to them, it's not tied to us, and that broker is then responsible for reaching out and choosing the vendor that they want to do that transport. There's been a ton of confusion in that space and a ton of delays. But that is outside of our control. We don't have any control over that. And as he spoke, those numbers are growing and it's active now. We see that. And that's a frustration on our part. And I'm sure the hospitals have that same frustration. Staffing shortages. I mentioned all that to you back in the spring. And I'm going to put that in a nutshell. The hospitals are hiring paramedics. They're hiring your paramedics. Your EMS agency is having to backfill those spots, and there are not paramedics out there. So they're hiring EMTs. And those EMTs, quite frankly, a lot of them are coming from my agency. And when that happens, it circles back around, and the hospitals are the ones, we don't have enough people to do all the service that they need. That puts us in a bad spot. I don't like being in that spot to not be able to take care of my customer. But that's just what we've been fighting through. Since, I mentioned this last week, but since May, we've increased our staffing. We've closed out 50% of the spots that we had open. Much like Chief Hunley reported, they've closed the gap on their 50%. We've made a lot of strides in that space. One thing that has really helped us, quite honestly, and thank you for this, you guys haven't hired one of our EMTs, only one in 6 months. And that is huge. That is huge. So thank you for that.
While you're here, we've got 5 minutes left. I just want to make sure, by the way, is there anyone else who would like to speak in opposition? If not, the remaining 5 minutes can be here, but is there going to be anyone else? Righty.
And I'm wrapping up.
Go ahead.
Bringing in a third ambulance service does not reduce my responsibility to Forsyth County in running 911 calls. I'm still going to be required to staff 3 shifts, 12 hours a day. Okay? That doesn't change. But what does change is my ability to offset that cost, because it is a pure cost to us to do 911. But we offset that by doing discharges for the hospitals. That's why it gets so competitive in our market to make sure that we're taking care of our customers. And I'm going to finish with this. I really struggle to understand how bringing in a third company that has no local EMTs is going to help in any of these problems. The folks that they're going to be looking to hire are working for you, working for me, working for Providence. This idea of hiring firefighters to come in here and do this work, those days are gone. Those firefighters, they have mandatory overtime. They're seeing the same shortages as we are. Thank you for your time. I'd be glad to answer any questions if you have any. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions that would like to be asked of anyone, quite frankly?
I have a couple when you get to it.
Go ahead, Commissioner Wisenhunt.
Well, what the public hearing's over with? Is it completed now?
Oh, wait, go ahead, ask your question. Commissioner Lynn,
Our,
please ask.
therefore, our EMS director. There you are. I was looking, you moved up to the front seat. Hey, I was looking for you in the
Damon
back.
wouldn't let me go back.
How does the call system work for people that's calling for transport convalescent? Does some of them come through our dispatch, or say the hospitals, do they call like one of the 2 providers that already is here? How's that work? If the calls comes through our system, is that on some kind of rotation basis? How does that work?
So from a convalescent perspective, those calls do not come through us. Both Providence and Lifestar have their own dispatch center or call takers, if you will. And the case managers or the emergency rooms will call the 7-digit or 10-digit phone number to get to that company. How they choose to work that process inside the hospitals, I can't speak to. They may be able to. There is a process inside the 911 system where we try to rotate calls, but that doesn't. We're so busy that it's essentially the next available ambulance gets the call.
Well, with the private citizens, it needs just transport, not emergency transport. In most cases, do they find who the providers are for that and they call them direct, and we don't get many of those calls?
We don't get any of those calls, no, sir. So the folks from the hospitals would be far better to answer that question for you. But they don't. None of the non-emergency calls come through our 911 system.
Okay, another question. Others might not need it, but might be helpful to me. Guilford County has somewhere near the same population we do.
Sure.
Do you know how many transport providers is over there? And the reason for the question is somebody, if it's just to know another county that's got X amount of providers.
I am not familiar with how Guilford County has set up with franchise providers. I know to the best of my knowledge, they don't use a franchise ambulance service in their 911 system.
Well, do they have providers, franchise providers just for convalescent transport services?
I believe Guilford County will do that, but I don't know how they specifically have their franchise.
The system may work different there than it does here.
Yes, sir.
then. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and maybe just to follow up on that, I'm assuming, there's no requirement, I don't think, there's no requirement that we have an ordinance that establishes franchises. So if we didn't have one, I assume that anybody could set up shop if they wanted to, and it would basically be the free market. I'm assuming that.
Yeah, yes, sir. I mean, I'll defer to Mr. Attorney.
That could be set up that way.
So, and then it's a matter of, there's no 911 service provided, so they go do what they want to do.
Yes, sir.
And obviously, we looked at the issue is that an opportunity, the franchise provides additional support for us.
Yes, sir.
In case we need it, so that when someone calls 911 with us, somebody's going to be there regardless. And I think every taxpayer in this community is interested in that, and I think that's why, obviously, that's as a part of it.
Yes, sir. And I will tell you, I think it was Mr. Stevens that indicated that they're running about 500 calls a month. They're running about 20% of our 911 calls, the two services that are in the system right now.
Other questions? Yes, Commissioner Bessie.
At the appropriate point, I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chair.
All right, any other questions?
I'll wait until the motion's made.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move that we approve the ordinance granting a non-emergency ambulance franchise within Forsyth County to MedEx Medical Transport Service, Emergency Services Department, Emergency Medical Services Division. And if there's a second, I'll explain.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner McDaniel, excuse me.
Okay.
Discussion.
Well, I will not be voting in favor of the motion. I do not think a need has been proven. I think we have two franchise establishments here that are doing an awesome job. And I will say that without them during the pandemic, we would have definitely been in trouble. And I just think it will be damaging to the two franchises that we have now. They are local. They are here. They live here in Forsyth County. I can't see that somebody who's from Wilson is going to be bringing employees here. So I think they will be pulling from the existing franchises. So for that reason, I'll be voting in opposition.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just some discussion. The question probably is going to be answered differently from some of us, and others may have a different opinion. The question, it seems to me, that needs to be answered, which is sort of hard to do. I sure don't have all the answers. We have two hospital representatives saying that there is a need for more. We got two operators that says there is not. And so we surely don't need to, and sometimes we get questions or concerns from the public that just wants transportation service, convalescent, not EMS, and because they have to either wait for, they say, a long time, and a long time when you got any kind of need to go to some kind of medical facility or whatever, then a short time is a long time. And we have had, but that's, I think, prevented mostly by the operators that we do have. They have to have some standby for EMS, 911. If our system gets overloaded, then they're called. If we had a new one, same kind of contract would be in place. Now, as Commissioner Wisenhunt talked about, some way to know, a better way to know what the need is, then I'd be all for that. Is there a way that that can be done with more information than what we have? I don't know. I'll do this. Maybe I'm not trying to make a habit of it, but it just happens sometimes. I'll make a substitute motion that we continue it. I'm going to say for 30 days. 2 weeks is a short time for things that goes on in government, but nevertheless, I would make a motion, propose that, and see if we can find any more concrete information on whether we need another service or not. And I just, so.
Is there a second to Commissioner Linville's substitute motion?
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Wisenhunt.
If I may?
Yes, comments.
Yes. Speaking both to the proposed substitute motion and if that fails to my original motion for approval, I don't think that we need additional evidence. I think that when you put the testimony that we're getting from all parties together, the evidence is clearly there that we do not have the present capacity to handle the non-emergency transport demand in our community. Essentially, we have the hospitals telling us that, and I can quote from the letter from Ms. Rivas at Atrium Health, many times we are unable to schedule the needed medical transport until the next day. On the other hand, the gentleman from Lifestar and Providence indicate that they can't maintain enough capacity to respond a few hours later, especially if it's later in the day. But they have unfilled transport spots available the next day or the day after that. As a practical matter, the truth is that an emergency room patient cannot schedule their visit. The hospital cannot schedule when that person is ready to leave. When you have someone that has, let's say, an elderly resident of a skilled nursing facility who's a fall risk, they fall in the morning. They are brought by an emergency service to the hospital. And it takes several hours to go through the process of the imaging, of the examinations, for the medical staff to ascertain whether or not they need to be admitted overnight. Let's say, and I have seen this in my own family on more than one occasion, that late in the afternoon, everything's completed, they can go home. They're not going to be admitted to the hospital. They don't need that service. They need to get home. They need to get back to the nursing home where they're staying. And at that point, they're told nobody is available to come pick you up until tomorrow. What are you going to do? Lie on a cot in the hallway of the emergency room? Yeah, there are people that do that. Sit in a chair in the waiting room of the emergency room? Yeah, that happens too. We need additional capacity than the current two perfectly good franchisees are able to provide for the services when it is needed. We don't need another 30 days. We don't need another 6 months again. We have the evidence before us that we need to conclude that this is a qualified applicant and the need is not being filled. And I submit that we should not approve the proposed substitute with all respect to my respected colleagues, but that we should go with the approval today.
Go ahead, other discussion, go ahead.
Response.
Yes.
To Commissioner Bessie, he's come to his conclusion based on information that's been provided. I just hadn't got to that point. Nobody is, many times whenever we're looking at something, staff people or some of our people that gives us information tells us what somebody might be doing in another county somewhere. Haven't heard that in this case. Not to put any blame or anything. Just y'all know that so that we get that information many times. So and so county's doing certain things, and it's just for information. But I just asked the question, and I'll leave it as a standing question, that unless something is absolute emergency and it's may need to be done, it may not need to be done, but 2 weeks, 30 days is not going to make the difference. In most cases, whenever I probably ask for continuance more than anyone else, but in most cases, if some commissioner wants to delay something for 2 weeks or 30 days, whatever, unless I think it's some compelling reason not to, I support it. That's all I have to say.
Mr. Chairman, since we're talking about emails we did receive an email today from a medic who is no longer working as a medic, but he did explain to me what some of the delays were at the hospitals. And I thought it was very interesting that he said that so oftentimes they get a call, they go to the hospital, and the paperwork has not been done. So they have to sit there and wait until the paperwork's done. Well, in the meantime, that medic is not out there doing in an ambulance. So I think that 30 days is fine with me, and maybe the hospitals and the franchise can get together. Maybe they can work out something. But I know how long it takes to fill out paperwork when you're at a hospital. So to know that that medic is sitting there when they could be out working is very disturbing to me.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
All right.
It seems from what I'm hearing that at the end of the day, the ability to make a profit comes into being. I mean, you're not going to run an ambulance service on promises. You're going to have to make some money. And now I'm hearing that if we add an additional franchise, that will be an additional drag on those who are already in the game, which means they will not make as much money. And the person who runs the new franchise is hoping, that's a good word, that they will not only make a profit, but they will make a good profit. So the question in my mind comes, when it comes to making money, and that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about the health care of people exclusively. What we're talking about is if we approve one more franchise, that's one more company in the game seeking the money that the other two have been just barely getting by on. So the question is, if we approve if we approve an additional company to get in the game, who are we doing it for? And will it work? And can those questions be answered today? I don't think they can.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I think my colleagues have raised perfectly good questions, and I would refer you to some of the information that was left at our places today. Forsyth County, with a population of roughly 392,000, has 2 franchise providers. Durham County, with a population of less than ours, 334,000, has 4 franchises. Pitt County, with a population of 170,000, has 8 franchise providers. I don't think this is a zero-sum game. I don't think we have any real evidence that it is a zero-sum game. I don't think we're going to get any evidence to that effect. What we do have evidence is that for the size of our population and our medical facilities, we are underserved. And that is resulting in delays on discharges of patients from our hospitals or people leaving emergency room because the capacity is not there when it is needed to provide the service. I think it is an urgent matter. I would be arguing less strenuously about this if we hadn't just delayed it 6 months from last summer. And in response to the fact that it was delayed that time, substantial additional evidence and testimony was compiled and provided to us today, more than sufficient for us to conclude that there is an unfilled need. And I urge my fellow commissioners to approve the franchise today.
Any other comments? And I have actually one question for our attorney. The question I have for our attorney is this, is that if we were to vote in favor of authorizing the franchise, for example, today, which is Commissioner Bessie's proposal, motion, it has to be voted on twice to become an ordinance. So that because of the holidays, in our briefing, we're not having another regular meeting until January the 11th. And so let's just say that passed today. And what if on the 11th it did not? What is the status of the action?
So the next scheduled meeting is January 18th.
Oh, yes, correct. We have a second, first and second, yes, correct.
Yes, sir. So it has to be passed twice. And so if it's not passed twice, it does not have effect.
Right.
So, I would state before there's a vote, the current pending motion, I believe, is more properly stated as a motion to hold the public hearing open and continue the public hearing until a certain date, which the next meeting, as I said, is January 18th, which is 28 days from today. So I believe the motion could be properly stated as a motion to hold the public hearing open and continued until January 18th.
Thank you. That clarifies. And sort of my observations and questions listening to this, because I certainly share it's obviously urgent for those that it's urgent for. If you're the person that's out in the waiting room, you're the person on the gurney, you're the person waiting for transport, then this is an emergency issue and is problematic and the need is stated. But there are a number of concerns, one of which is that with our 2 franchisees, we basically they're doing 20% of our EMS calls. And that's a high number. And that's a number that's unacceptable also. I understand completely paperwork, particularly when there's federal and or state, in this case combined with the Medicaid expansion and the issues of all that being properly handled. And we really are talking about wait time for patients, and we're talking about wait time for transport services. We're talking about a lot of wait time issues. And then when you throw into that mix that we have a shortage in this community, and I'm sure we could argue, I don't believe it's a reach to say it's a shortage statewide, nationwide, of EMTs and paramedics. And there are some there are many forces. They're not interesting in that sense. They're just forces that impact that. And when we postponed this 6 months ago, the reason that was provided is that basically, because of the staffing shortage, hopefully staffing would improve and we'd be able to reconsider this in 6 months, and that's why we waited 6 months. And it is true, we learned at our briefing last week that we have improved our staffing. Our vacancies are down by about 50% here and about 50% in our 2 franchises, our private providers. So if that were the single reason, then we would certainly say that it would be a reason enough to support, approval. And there are some questions that remain unanswered that I'm looking also, we've already spent an hour today. Not that it doesn't, and it deserves whatever time it takes to get done. The question is, when do we take it? And I actually think that Commissioner Linville's motion that was talking about, he was postponing 30 days is 28 days until our next regular meeting. And the questions that I would be interested in knowing is, what do we think our plans can be on our own, with Director Hundley? I mean, how do we begin to look at that, reducing that need for us? I have a question for the hospitals. I'd love to, the comments about the paperwork side where there's waiting occurring by the transport service and the third-party brokerage and Medicaid expansion, which is new, comments on that part. And I think Commissioner Linville was suggesting that very issue of, it's kind of like how do we improve our process if we can? And then at the root cause of all this, that there will be no solution by, or no answer to the question by the 18th of January is, is how do we continue to improve our pipeline of EMTs in particular, which is a major issue, and it has improved. And I guess we think that will improve with a great success and work with our community college, et cetera. So there are a lot of issues out here that surround that, and it is a serious matter, and it's one in which, and I guess from a MedEx question, the MedEx question for me is, where are your EMTs coming from? And I think the observation is correct. They're probably not coming from Wilson County to get here, or Raleigh, or anywhere else. They're probably going to be hired here. And we already knew from 6 months ago, something that's not been mentioned today, is that MedEx typically pays a higher rate, which means, yes, they very well could attract EMTs to work for them as a private franchisee. And so maybe they do well, and our public is not doing any better, and we've helped a profit-making enterprise help us. So you got a whole bunch of issues out here, and I would be very pleased, since we do have two briefings coming up. One is on the 4th and one is on the 11th. The regular meeting then on the 18th. That maybe we could get a little more discussion and answer to that, and perhaps some of that could be collected by Director Hundley. We kind of think this is a key issue for him. He has some of that discussion, and maybe at one of the next two briefings we would be able, to hear that. And in that spirit, to act on the actions that are on the table, I will certainly support Commissioner Linville's proposal of the delay. And we'll see. It may not. If it doesn't pass, we're in a different location, different option. So on the substitute motion, that actually from Commissioner Linville, seconded by Commissioner Wisenhunt, we're actually talking about a postponement, as the county attorney says, keep the public hearing open until January the 18th. So with that said, and I'd like to ask all of our commissioners to hold up your hand on voting so that we can see it better. In fact, that's, by the way, something that public presented to me. A gentleman who was here at our last public meeting said he has a little hard time picking out the ayes and the nays, and he'd like to see a hand, and I think that's very good protocol, and we will institute that from this point forward, so we'll hold up our hands. So all in favor of the substitute motion, please hold up your hand. Those who are opposed to the substitute motion, please hold up your hand. Postpone until January. The public hearing will remain open until January the 18th. Motion passes 4-3.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
While you were talking, the thought occurred to me that we as a board are responsible for spending $500 million a year for everything that we do. And one of the questions I asked a while ago, and I don't think there's an answer, and I'm not sure there's going to be an answer tonight, is if you're going to run an ambulance service, you're not going to run it at a deficit and eat that deficit for the rest of your life. You're just not going to do that. And if you're running a business, generally speaking, you want a percentage of profit somewhere in there. So the question would be if, and I don't know the answer to this either, but I just thought I'd throw it out since we voted. If we have a certain percentage that the ambulance operators can look at and say, well, we can expect to make this much money. And then at the end of the year, they find out they did not make that much money. Is it out of the question, because we are representing the people, to suggest that maybe out of a $500 million budget, the commissioners might find the difference of profit, whatever that might be. And that's an unknown, and it probably would cause all kinds of political ramifications. But there's got to be an answer. And the people who hold the money bag are sitting up here. The people who are looking to dip into that money bag are sitting out there and throughout the county. So all I'm suggesting is we have the money. I don't know how much. I don't know what it would be. But is that worth considering?
Commissioner Platter, let me respond first. I mean, I think all things can be, as we approach our budget process, anything can be discussed. I will say that our $500 million budget is allocated 100%. I mean, it's in places. So to make something different requires other adjustments in our revenue too. And those kind of discussions, I think, need to occur at a more appropriate time in the budget as we look at the future. So we are ready to move on. The next item on the agenda is a resolution designating for a Forsyth County official to make a recommendation to the North Carolina ABC Commission on ABC permit applications. It is one person listed. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion by Commissioner Wisenhunt. Is there a second? I'll second that. Is there any discussion about the single appointment to the ABC Commission? If not, no discussion. All in favor, please hold up your hand, please. Passes unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, could we have a 5-minute break, please?
Just, 5 minutes, and we'll get to we can get organized for our public comment session. So, thank you. sorry. Our 5 minutes became 8, so I apologize for that. Commissioner Best will be back shortly. We do have to approve the minutes, and I'd like to, everyone has had an opportunity to review those. Is there a motion to approve the
Move
minutes,
we
please?
approve the minutes.
Motion approved by Commissioner Plyler. I'll second those. Any discussion? All in favor, please hold up your hand. Passes unanimously, 6-0 with Mr. Bessie. Madam Clerk, do we have any calls or cards for the public session?
Mr. Chairman, we have 11 speaker cards and 1 person on the phone waiting.
Everyone has been waiting. Why don't we put the caller in the middle of the speakers?
We can do that.
And we will do 6 speakers, do the caller, and then do the other 5, and we can get started. In this case, we will operate on 3 minutes, 3 minutes comments. And again, please introduce yourself and provide your address, and we will get started as soon as Commissioner Bessie is back, and I think he'll be right back. I'll get my...
You sure that's what you want to do?
We have school board members here if you want to.
Let's go, well, actually,
I don't think he heard.
let's go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and call your first person. And if you would, Madam Clerk, if you could call 2 people's names, the second person can come up and find an on-deck chair and be ready to come up forward so we can move forward. So, all righty, so the first 2.
Our first 2 speakers are Kevin Stogner and Kim Woody. When you come to the podium, please state your name and address for the record.
And have you got your second person called?
Yeah, she did.
Right, and I didn't see anybody else move. Oh, there we go. You're close. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Appreciate your indulgence.
Good
All right.
afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the commission, fellow citizens of Forsyth County. My name is Kevin Stogner. I reside at 3157 Hickory Ridge Drive. However, I'm representing South Little League in the South Ward at 810 West Clemensville Road. I've been a board member there since 2015, and I'm the current treasurer. A little bit about South Little League and who we are. We've been serving the community for over 50 years. We're self-serving, 100% volunteer. We own the land generously donated by the Kreitz family, also known as Kreitz Field. We maintain and repair everything internally. The bodies of children that we serve, we do 2 seasons and then an all-stars in the summer. Each season, we represent and serve 200 to 250 families in the community. We teach them skills of baseball and softball, but not only that, we also try to pass on life lessons in the form of attitude, work ethic, punctuality, and all of the other things that are accompanied with the discipline of participating in a sport. We, coming out of COVID, we faced some financial challenges, which we've bounced back from, and with the help of community partners and families, we've been able to paint the park, replace the mower, drop a ceiling within the concession stand, a new grill, new freezer. We've done vast improvements, new plumbing fixtures, lighting fixtures, etc. However, we're facing a challenge right now that threatens the momentum that we've generated. We've had some poles. We have lighting poles on 4 different fields that have been deemed unsafe. We've completed phase 1, where we removed the poles from the field number 4 at the cost of $8,000 to the league. We've personally fundraised and allocated $40,000, and we're recently awarded from the North Carolina General Assembly $250,000 towards this goal of swapping out the wooden light poles that are deemed unsafe and are continuing to degrade. While $290,000 is a large sum of money, we are in need of more. The quotes we received are roughly $550,000. What the ROI is for that, return on investment, would be a 25-year warranty on the labor and the material. So when we achieve this goal, and hopefully with the help of the council, we will future-proof this site that's been in existence in the South Ward for 50 years and serves roughly 400 families in our community. And really, that's it, to be honest with you. That's who we are, what we need, and what we're trying to achieve. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. You finished 7 seconds early.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Kim Woody, and I reside at 4495 Gatlin Knoll Lane in Clemens. First, before I get started, I would like to recognize all the attendants in support of the New Brunson moving forward. I've been a teacher at Brunson Elementary for 24 years now. The New Brunson was put in the bond over a decade and approved over a decade ago, and here we are still. Our students deserve this. Our community deserves this. Let's make the right decision, and please move forward with this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next two speakers are Nicole Walters and Daniel Ackerman. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is Nicole Walters. I live at 6664 Springfield Village Lane in Clemens. I'm coming to you as a teacher today, and I know we can go over the would'ves, should'ves, and could'ves about this entire project. However, I'm going to make one point, and that's follow through. If there's anything I learned while teaching my so many years, is that follow through is the most important thing that you could ever do to earn the trust of your students. And if we want trust in our community and in this board, I say, let's follow through with this project. We have students in this school who are eager to learn in a new, clean environment. Let's follow through. I'm urging you to push this project through, please.
My name is Daniel Ackerman. I live at 2873 Monticello Drive. And I am a parent of a child at Brunson who I've appreciated actually getting to bring here today for a little civics lesson over the holiday break. We could go on and on about the current Brunson, its many needs, a school over 60 years old, and a school that's been promised a rebuilding for quite some time. But I think my main point is that we need to follow through on what we've committed to. We need to trust the school board when they tell you that this is what we need to do. And we need to recognize that we're making a decision that's not just going to impact students today, but just like the old Brunson served us for 60 years, a decision that will actually continue to pay dividends for decades and decades to come. And so I urge you to support the school board, support our teachers, support our students, and to approve the funding for the New Brunson.
Our next two speakers are Kara Yates and Alan Daniel. Please state your name and address for the record.
Thank you. I'm Kara Yates. I reside at 6050 Greenhaven in Clemens. I did time this. It came out at 3 minutes, so we'll see how I do on that. Thank you, commissioners, for your time today. My name is Kara Yates, as I've already stated. I have 2 children in our public school system, including a son who is in the 5th grade in the HAG program at Brunson. I am the Brunson PTA Board Treasurer, and today I'm speaking to you on behalf of our entire PTA board. I could speak all day to you, I won't, as to the quality of the education our students receive at Brunson. The teachers and the administration are some of the hardest working, creative, and caring educators that we have in this entire district. As I'm sure you know, Brunson is home to a very diverse population of students. As a Title I school, we have many vulnerable families, many of whom are Black and brown, whose parents are working multiple jobs. Many of our students are food insecure, housing insecure, and lack family involvement. Still, these students find a caring community at our school and an equitable learning experience. We could all take a lesson in how to treat others from these fine educators. I personally do not envy being in your shoes regarding making decisions for our new school building. We all find ourselves here in between a rock and a hard place. I will not rehash all the facts to you. I know you can probably recite them in your sleep. Many others here today will remind us of the cards that we have been dealt to this point. I think we can all agree that we wish we were dealt with another card. A viable, clean piece of affordable land in the downtown district that could accommodate a new Brunson. But since this is not our reality, we cannot waste any more time wishing. Our kids deserve better. We honestly only see one option for you as a PTA board, and that is to stay the course and fund the Brunson Elementary project as presented to you by the Winston-Salem Forsyth County School District. I will leave you and everyone in this room and at home with one important thought. Would we be where we are today if the school building in question did not say Brunson, but rather Whitaker, Meadowlark, Vienna, or Reynolds? Would it have taken almost a decade to make these decisions? Would decisions have been made more expediently? Would we have had to fight this hard for support? Would we be told to simply dissolve our school and be absorbed into our neighboring school district, or neighboring schools, pardon me? Would we be facing the same backlash over the price tag? Would every single detail be questioned as worth it? Would we be receiving the same level of community support, district support, I promise I'm almost done, political support, fiscal support, and news coverage? If not, then we have work to do. As a school district, as a city, as a commissioner, as a mom, and as a community, our kids deserve better. All of our kids deserve an equitable and free public education. They rely upon us, their adults, their elected officials, their school district leaders, and their community advocates to ensure that we are providing each and every student in our district with equitable opportunities for a better future. I implore each of you to do what is right on behalf of our students and educators at Brunson. Thank you.
Thank you. Hold, Mr. Daniels, just wait one second. I did want to reply to your questions. We'd be exactly the same place. This group is building agnostic. We set the budgets and we approve budgets by project. And it doesn't matter what project was in the bond issue, we're going to approve it in the same kind of issues. So the answer to all those questions, we'd be sitting here, if X, Y, Z were true, we'd be sitting here exactly the same because it doesn't make it, that part makes absolutely no difference to this board. I'll be clear about that. Mr. Daniel.
Thank you. Alan Daniel, 100 Fir North Court in Clemens. I sent you guys an email earlier today. I hope you've had a chance to read it. It addresses some questions that I have. But today I'd like to share a story of 4 schools. Kimberly Park Elementary School in 2015 had 249 students. Today they have 263. Their status in the state improved 165 places and 10.2 percentage points between those 2 years. Cook Elementary, located 9/10 of a mile south, had 276 students, now has 230. Their status improved 300 places, 19.2 percentage points. That then located 1 mile south, or actually east, is New Brunson. In 2015, when this bond was proposed, there were 608 students at Brunson. There are now 369, a decline of 39.3%. Their improvement in the state this year was 70 places, 4.2 percentage points. About 8/10 of a mile to the northeast is some property that the school system has bought for a new Ashley. That school had 490 students in 2015. It now has 335. So there's been a significant decline in the student population in those schools from a total of 1,623 to 1,197. Lest you think that building a new school will turn that around, Paisley
had 764 students in 2015. We built them a new school. They now have 574 students. Their status in the state declined 46 places among middle schools, a decline of 6 percentage points. A new school is not going to make any difference. With a decline in the population of the school to 50% of the reduced capacity, and the gentleman spoke to 60 years from now, if we build a new Brunson with sheetrock walls, that school will not be standing in 60 years. I will promise you that. Do we really need to spend $52 million to build a new Brunson and then come to the next bond and 0.8 of a mile to the northeast spend another $52 or $82 million to build a new Ashley? We have to be good stewards of the taxpayers' money. My basic question is, how did we ever decide to spend 4 times tax value on a piece of property that we knew was a brownfield site? There's one person on the commissioners that might be able to answer that question because she sat on that school board. Why did we decide to spend $2 million for a contaminated piece of property? We do not yet have a brownfield agreement with the state, which is required before construction can begin. That means we don't know how much it'll cost to remediate it or how much it'll cost to build it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, it's time for the phone call.
Yeah, let's do that, and then I'm going to introduce our school board members who are here. Somebody sent me a note to remind me of that. Thank you.
Thank you for calling the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners Public Session Line. The session is for comments only and questions cannot be answered. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Irma Jackson.
And what is your address, ma'am?
846 Granville Drive, Winston-Salem 27101.
Thank you. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes each. You may begin.
Okay, I'm here to speak in response to support for building the new Brunson School. There are several points that I'd like to make, and I'll make this as brief as possible. Number one, the bond was passed 7 years ago to build this school, and it still hasn't been done. I understand that there's been a pandemic, but 7 years is a long time to wait for a new building. There are lots of other things, I'm sure, that have happened in the school system, but building a school for little people is an important thing. The second thing is the age of this current school has to be causing some deterioration. It may have asbestos or other environmentally unfriendly things. So building a new school is a positive step in that direction. The third thing I'd like to say is that students deserve a better, more modern learning space than the one that they're currently in addition to the fact that it's in a floodplain. I don't know whether it floods when it rains or not, when it rains hard or not. And the fourth thing is most of the people on this board probably have children and grandchildren who would be the age of these students. The question I would ask is, would you send your children to that school? Don't you think they deserve the same things that your children, when you drive through neighborhoods and the speed limit is reduced, people ask, if your child were playing here, would you be driving like this? So the question is, if your child were going to this school, would you want it to be updated? And I think the answer is yes. I'd like to leave you with two things. The first is a question. And the question is, would you want your child to go to this school, which is environmentally unsafe, or would you rather that they went to a place that's safe? The school system talks talks about bringing all children up to the same educational level. They lost time during the pandemic. If you continue at this rate, they will lose even more time, and they are kind of unknown, unseen children. And the last thing I'd like to leave you with, I can't speak to whether people are churched or not, and it's really not anything to do with this. However, we are all charged to care for the least of these, because to whom much is given, much is expected. So the county commissioners have a responsibility to the city and to these children. Also, I need to remind you, if people supported a bond and it's taken 7 years for it to come to fruition, will they support it again when you ask for their help? And those are my only comments.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Let me take a moment and ask our school board members to stand who are here, and I think I can call everybody's name, I hope. No, it's good. I'll introduce you. Susan Miller is on the end. Deanna Kaplan is the chairman, is next. Sabrina Kuntz is next, and Travania Gaither Brown. Travonia Gaither Brown, I apologize. Travonia, it's Gaither Brown. And where's Alex?
He left.
Oh, he left, right. And Alex Mohanson was here. Thank you all for being here. Now we're ready.
Our next two speakers are Peter Antonazzi and Rhonda Mays.
Good afternoon, Board. I'm Peter Antonazzi. I live at 3350 Nottingham Road, Winston-Salem. The evening the school board approved the purchase of the Patterson property for Brunson, Commissioner Woodbury was the chair of the school board, and I shared my public comments on that agenda item. My closing question that evening was this: why would the school district even consider building an elementary school on one of the county's most environmentally contaminated sites? This endless pursuit to redevelop Patterson Avenue with school bond funding should never have gotten this far. I previously shared this binder of damning environmental data reports with the school board. And today I share this binder during this appeal to the county commissioners. My hope is with the commissioners and the school district staff in the same room today, we could find an alternative to the Patterson option and move forward to build a safe school on a clean property. Here are some suggested questions to get the conversation started. Commissioners McDaniel, Plyer, and Linville. Ask Mr. Walker, what is an active vapor intrusion mitigation system? Why does the Brownfields program require it? How much does it cost? And what happens to the safety of school children when it fails? Commissioner Bessie, please provide your insights on the influence of the City Council and their development partners on school site selection. Greater Winston-Salem, Inc. and the Downtown Winston-Salem Partnership are listed in the school district's grant application to the EPA. What is their role in this process? Commissioners Martin and Weisenhunt, back in the 1990s, you both served the school district when the board approved a plan to quietly install chemical monitoring wells at Haynes Middle School on Indiana Avenue. You knew then the groundwater under the school was contaminated. How do you think that decision has aged? In 2015, the $40 million school campus was permanently closed due to groundwater contamination. History matters, and by not reflecting on past decisions, the same mistakes will be repeated. I'm pretty confident that Commissioners McDaniel and Woodbury do not want a second school shuttered in the district they represent. Now, this comes back to you, Commissioner Woodbury, and the school board's fateful decision to build an elementary school on a hazardous site. You have a second chance this afternoon. Do you want to roll the dice that $52 million will be sufficient to provide a safe school, or do you want to table the decision today and take a minute to read the environmental reports in this binder? And I would add, reports paid for with the 2016 school bond. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Rhonda Mays. I live at 6391 Bishops Ridge Lane, Rural Hall, and I'm here standing in support of the Winston-Salem-Forsyth County Schools request for the additional funds to continue with the New Bronson project. Bronson was approved on the 2016 bond. We all know that. But since that time, inflation has happened. The cost of materials, the cost of doing business, the cost of building has changed. And there's some other costs that perhaps they had not thought about during that initial request. We know that the children, the families, the staff, they have been waiting for New Bronson for a long time. They continue to deal with the conditions of their current Bronson situation. It is time for our children and our staff to be able to know and to look forward to a New Bronson. I ask you to approve their request today. Thank you.
Our next two speakers are Christian Schroeder and Stephanie Brown. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Stephanie Brown, President of Visit Winston-Salem and proud new resident residing at 2642 Coosa Drive, Winston-Salem. I'm here today to speak in support of the new clubhouse at Tanglewood. I'd like to thank each of you for your service and your leadership that has helped to make Forsyth County such a great place to live, work, and visit. We very much appreciate Commissioner Wisenhunt's service to the TDA Board. As you know, the mission of Visit Winston-Salem is to attract visitors for the economic benefit of Forsyth County and its citizens. The people who live here are our customers. We serve them by attracting leisure visitors, meeting attendees, and sports tournaments that add to the economic vitality of our community. The attractions that create economic impact through tourism also contribute to the quality of life enjoyed by residents. We believe that if you build a place that people love to live, it's also a place that people will want to visit. As we see throughout the year, with recreational activities and the Festival of Lights during the holiday season, Tanglewood is a community asset for both residents and visitors. According to the Sports and Events Tourism Association, sports tourism generated $92 billion in this country in 2021, and sports tourism is an important part of our tourism economy that generates nearly $1 billion a year here in Forsyth County. My colleague Christian Schroeder is here to talk about some specific opportunities for us here locally. A modern clubhouse will create more opportunities to host tournaments, and those tourism events will put visitor dollars in local cash registers and enhance the quality of Forsyth County as a place to visit. And redeveloping this community asset will maintain the clubhouse as a place of gathering and celebration for the people who call Forsyth County home. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Christian Schroeder, and I reside at 6275 Selwick Lane in Kernersville, North Carolina. And I just wanted to take a few minutes to address a couple of items that I've come across during my tenure at Visit Winston-Salem. I have the privilege of working with our sales and services team on bringing events to our community, specifically conventions and sporting events and group tour. And certainly, as Stephanie mentioned, Tanglewood is a great asset for our community, whether it's Festival of Lights or other events that we do there throughout the year. We're excited and delighted that the NCAA has selected Winston-Salem to be the host of the Division I golf championships for regional golf championships for the women in 2024 and for the men in 2026. We're going to have all those activities here in Forsyth County and adjacent Davie County. When I'm asked why Tanglewood was not selected to host that tournament, and rather it's at Bermuda Run, although all the other activities are in Forsyth County, was as a result of the event needs and the requirements of the clubhouse that fit better in Bermuda Run than they did in Forsyth County. We've also looked at other tournaments to host at Tanglewood. Conference Carolinas is one that has looked at hosting their conference championship here as well, and they're interested in potentially moving forward in the future in Forsyth County or awaiting an update on the clubhouse status. Certainly another business opportunity for us, as well as the National Junior College Athletic Association, which is considering us for future championships at Tanglewood as well. Again, the clubhouse is a major factor in deciding whether or not they'll come to our community or go to another destination. Winston-Salem is uniquely qualified to host a number of championships because as a community, as everyone is aware, we're home to 6 colleges and universities, and they all compete at all 3 levels of the NCAA, Divisions 1, 2, and 3, with Wake Forest University, Winston-Salem State University, and Salem College. And with the recent announcement by Forsyth Tech that they'll be adding an athletic program, we'll also have a member competing in the NJCAA competition level as well. So I certainly see a lot of opportunities on the sports side for us with enhancements at Tanglewood with the clubhouse. The other thing that we see a great deal is conventions and groups coming in, and as you know, some of those conferences that come and meet here in Forsyth County have golf tournaments that have looked at coming to Tanglewood, and some compete and play at Tanglewood while they're here in downtown Winston-Salem for a convention. Others will go to other golf courses because of the clubhouse. So again, improvements at the clubhouse will open up business opportunities within the conventions and meetings market as well for Winston-Salem. I want to thank you for your time today and your consideration of the efforts in improving the clubhouse for the betterment of our community, but we certainly see it as an opportunity for more business for our community and bringing visitors here. Thank you very much. Happy holidays.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, our last speaker is Marcy West. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record, please.
Hello, my name is Marcy West. I live at 331 Carolina Circle. I'm also a candidate for County Commissioner in District B. I'm here to talk about support of the Brunson School and the funding for that. I understand that this has been considered, the initial budget came out quite a while ago. I heard 2014 when I listened to the last meeting. It's almost a decade ago. So it's no surprise that the costs have gone up quite significantly. It also seems as though there's been a number of delays. So there have been decisions made by the school committee and by the communities with a lot of different options considered, and the option that was chosen by the community, by the school board is recommended, is to move forward with the new Brunson School at Patterson Avenue. At this point, if we delay, what's going to happen is it's only going to go up in terms of cost to do anything. And I have not heard any alternate solutions in terms of dealing with this need. We've had a student population and teachers who've been going through a declining school facility, and we really need to do something about that. It's very important to work collaboratively with your community, with other boards, committees, and commissions, and take that advice that we put our trust in those people. I can say that I understand it's difficult to deal with these situations. I have over 10 years of experience in local government in a different community. I understand when these types of things come up, it's very hard to balance. But it is important at this point, I think, to make the commitment, follow through on the commitment, and to move forward with building the school. So I want to thank you.
Mr. Chairman, we have a late entry. Is that okay?
All right.
It's Terry Mrazek. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Terry Mrazek. I live at 6547 Kernersville Road, Blues Creek, North Carolina. The reason that I want to address you is just with questions. I'm not against any new schools being built, but when I think back and heard everything I heard today, the $350 million bond was voted and approved by voters. And with that said, that included many other promises that was made to be part of this project. And one of those was the Smith Farms project, which would mean that would be put on postponed or being or never even created. And what that is a middle school that is so needed in Forsyth County because our middle schools right now are overpopulated. The classrooms have more students than they can actually do. So we got to look at this in many different ways. I'm all for all new schools, but when we have a school that isn't even built. I'm sorry, what?
No, you were fine. I just made a mistake.
Okay. So what I'm asking today is questions. I think that maybe this shouldn't be voted on right now. I heard that the land that you're going to build the new school on in Winston-Salem is contaminated. That really concerns me as a parent and a grandparent that has children in the public school system. I wouldn't want any of my children possibly being harmed with contaminated land. I just think that this project needs a little bit more time, maybe just even a few weeks or a couple months, so a little more research can be done, but also to look at the projects that were promised in this bond that was voted on by the people, that maybe you should reach out to Smith's Farms and in the schools, in the school board to find out exactly what is the percentage of need of this middle school versus a school to be rebuilt. I came from a school, I taught school at one of the oldest schools here in North Carolina, 200 years old, Oak Ridge Military Academy. They still operate out of the same alumni building with proper maintenance, and it's a very safe school. So all I'm asking is that we just take a little more time and think of this totally to all the other projects that are going to be postponed or never even happen that was part of this bond that the voters in Forsyth County voted for. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Basically, we're ready to begin our regular part of the meeting, and I do know a lot of you have stayed and are interested in the Brunson item, and I think if there's no objection, I'd like to move that item forward, and we could go ahead and consider it now. Does anyone have an objection to that? I will find the number of the item.
It's number 6, Mr. Chairman.
Number 6, and if we could just move it first, that would be great. First of all, would anyone like a repeat or any? Actually, it may be helpful to have Darrell Walker come forward. He may want to do a slight review and add to what we've heard, and might be another question or two for him.
Good afternoon. I'll entertain. You have specific questions you want to ask, or do you just want me to kind of revamp from last week?
Anybody like a recap,
week,
or
kind of recap?
are you ready just to ask a question or
Yeah, so obviously this land evaluation, there were originally 29 different locations evaluated, narrowed down to 19 to get to where we are today, quite honestly. So a lot of work, a lot of time went into that evaluation. The concern, we did have environmental studies made. And it may know back in the 30s, there was a dry cleaning just a little bit east of that location, I believe, that, and then the plant itself was a coal burning plant. So those are kind of some of the things that we dealt with. We did have an environmental study. We'd come back. Within the design of this building, we did include a vapor intrusion system, which we normally do within our buildings anyway, and a mitigation system that was referenced earlier today as well, that's being designed in the system. We don't have a final price on that yet because we are about to roll out the job to the streets to be bid. And so we could come back with that a little bit later, but a lot of time and effort went into that. It has been delayed quite a bit, just making decisions around the right location. And from a staff perspective, we supported that and continue to move forward. We did receive a grant to work on our with our Brownsfield agreement that we are working through, and that should be finalized here in the next 30, 60 days.
So you do not anticipate any difficulty in being able to begin construction and build the building?
No, sir.
Other questions? Go ahead, Commissioner Best.
For the information of the listening public, We've had at least one gentleman suggesting that this is a horribly contaminated site and it's going to be unsafe for the kids. I assume that's the question that the school district did take into account and evaluated. Can you give us a little background on how you did so?
Yeah, we did. We brought in some third-party outside firm to come in and do the study on the environmental that reported back to the board. And so that allowed us to kind of move forward from there, quite honestly. And a long story short is that we did bring in someone from the outside to do that environmental study, an expert in those fields.
And what was their conclusion?
That there were some findings, minimal, but our underground vapor system and intrusion system would be able to mitigate and monitor that.
And do you hazard a guess about what the vapor system costs, just generally speaking? I kind of have a memory on those.
Again, we haven't gone to bid, but I've had some estimates somewhere between $300,000 and $500,000 for the mitigation system.
Other questions? All righty.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
Do you want me to introduce the item, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what the board's acting on today, it's item 6. It's an amendment to the 2016 Schools Capital Projects Ordinance for the Brunson Elementary School Replacement Project. The original budget for the project was $25,225,200. The additional funding required that will place these dollars available in this fund is $27,249,179.78. And the indication is that there could be completion in 2025.
Move approval. Second, Chairman.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Woodbury and a second by Commissioner McDaniel. Discussion.
Yes. With my limited voice, excuse me, I'm having just a little bit of trouble speaking today, but I will try to do my best. And I just wanted to say for the record that I do know that this is a very hard pill to swallow. Thank you, Daryl, for sharing the information that I needed to know in terms of the environmental studies. And I will say that I wanted to share with the public that I know that there will be some unintended consequences relative to this site. And I hope that the community will rally together to work through those situations. And the same amount of energy that is in this room today, I'd like to see that same energy for an Ashley Elementary School. I'm tired of talking about it. So go back in your figures and figure out how to get us an Ashley Elementary School. Thank you.
Other comments?
Chair
Martin, I just want to address the sensitivity of the issue of building a school on a site that has definitely, I think, some concerns from the public at large. And I, too, have continuously concerns about anytime we're building a new school, making sure that it is safe. I think based on the hard work of the school district staff to bring in the experts to inform the vote, that is how the school board, from my recollection, moved forward with always the thought, I know that I'm on record, that when there is any indication from the experts that we cannot build on that land, it would not have, my support. But as long as the experts led us down the reasonable path that we could possibly build on that school, I think that on the other side of the argument that we need to be very conscientious of is that there have been citizens, particularly the citizens who attend Brunson as children and also who work in Brunson as employees, have been the strongest advocates around a new school in the appropriate assignment zone. So although I can, understand both sides of the argument, I think that as citizens, we just have to agree to disagree. And, I'm on record definitely supporting the will of the folk who have to, learn and work in that space with their families. And I can assure you that I know with my time lastly on the board, I can recall at least 4 meetings that Darrell Walker's team came back and forth with the board in order to assure us there was no other land in the assignment zone that we could purchase to build the new Brunson. And so this is kind of how we got here. And what I will say is that I understand the sensitivity. I understand that there are arguments on both sides, and I do, in all sincerity, respect both sides, but I think we need to be very diligent with the 2016 bond request, build a new Brunson on a safe site. And as long as the data and the science is telling us that it's a safe site, I think the county commissioner should support the will of the school board. Thank you.
Any other comments? I have perhaps a closing one, but are there any others?
Yeah. I do have a couple comments. I think in my tenure that this is the most difficult vote that I've ever had to vote on. I'll give you a little bit of history. When the bond referendum came to the commissioners to be approved, to be placed on the ballot, I voted against it. And the reason I did was that I believed it was too large. And I think now we know it was too large. And what I said was that we could not predict the inflation in that amount of time. If it had been half the amount, I think we'd be at a different place. And to spend $53 million for an elementary school is just something that's beyond me, and I think it'll affect the next bond referendum. My son went to Brunson. I can walk to Brunson from where I live. But I will vote for this, but I want you folks to know, if my son was going to that school, I would not send him there. I don't know, surely y'all know this, that 2 locations that are within walking distance of this school houses sex offenders. They house the homeless who walk up and down the street day and night. But you all have come here and begged us to support this. We do not choose the location. The county commissioners do not. The school board does. So I will vote for this, but it's the worst vote I have ever had to do.
Thank you. I've got a couple of comments, and I'll do my best to be very brief. I will say that I've been on this commission for going on year 10. Actually, I'm finished 10 years, I think. And the issue becomes one I was asked earlier when I was, because most of you know, I spent a lot of years, 19 as superintendent here. And I remember Commissioner Walter Marshall, who is no longer with us, but asking me what hat I was wearing. Was I wearing the superintendent's hat or a commissioner's hat? And I did probably switch that around somewhat. And I've tried to adopt my commissioner's hat and behave accordingly. And certainly the issue of the bond issue and the inflation, very early projects in this bond issue were over budget. And some were substantially over budget. And we have recordings of all of our meetings and minutes that are pretty detailed. And I raised the questions then about concerns of over budget projects in the early part of this bond issue. There was $25 million budgeted in the bond issue for inflation. And yes, that was going to make a difference. And sort of the answer was, well, we believe there are going to be bond issue savings on this project or that project, and that this is all going to work out. Clearly, the pandemic created supply chain problems, inflation. We all have experienced that. But the original budget for this project was less than half of its anticipated budget now. It was about $24 million, somewhere in there. And now this is a $52 million project, and all of that increase was not based on the pandemic and inflation. You can look at inflation, go back and look at what the numbers were in 2016 when this bond issue passed, and even go to 2015 when the budget was prepared, and then look at it now. So there are many factors in this that are disturbing to me, and I share somewhat Commissioner Wisenhut's comment. I'm not sure if it's the hardest decision, but it is a tough one for me. And it really gets at roles, the role of the county commissioner and the role of the school board. And the school board certainly they have to make their decisions. They requested an amount of money. We approved for the voters to approve it. They did. And our job has been one to manage it, but basically all the decision-making rests with the school board. But it's gotten to the point now, and I still have good friends who are superintendents practicing and retired. And they would think I've gone over to the dark side to basically suggest that when projects begin, when they're going to be over budget, and those are the original estimates, I fear we need to have some more discussion. There needs to be some more discussion on this before we get to this point. I mean, there needs to be a way to intervene before. And I know Mr. Daniels, he's spoken many times when I was superintendent, not always kindly. And I've certainly here at the commissioners he's spoken. But some of the facts that he gave today about student enrollment numbers, there are a lot of variables in school planning, there are a lot of variables in the future, a lot of variables in a lot of things. And I don't know what the answer to that additional discussion may be, or what our role in oversight should be when projects go at some point versus just saying whatever, approve it, and then here we are. So I am really wrestling with that, and I've actually been thinking about it over the last week, and as we got to this point. And I certainly wouldn't begin to suggest some of the things I've been thinking about. But in any case, I also will be able to support this. I've been in Brunson many times, part of the original project to put some concrete under it to keep it from sinking into Silas Creek. I've been in it when the Silas Creek did flood and go over and go into the building. I've been there. And it is time for the folks that have been involved in the Brunson project to move to a new home. There's no question about that. Appreciate all of you who spoke, from your hearts, to that issue. But the broader, bigger issue about our role in construction oversight and approving budgets, et cetera, I think needs some more revision, So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, please hold up your hand. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Mr. County Manager, we are ready to begin the agenda.
So we do have a fairly significant set of business items for consideration. We've obviously taken one of them. Do you want to have a short recess before we dive into this?
Better hurry, because everybody's leaving, studio audience.
A short recess. This won't be really short.
5 short, okay.
Thank you. I think we've had our second recess, and now we're ready to proceed. Mr. Manager.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, board members and staff and guests. We do have some more business items for consideration this afternoon. We have reviewed them in briefing sessions and hopefully have answered all the questions that you have. So I'll go ahead and dive into it. Agenda item 5 is an amendment to the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget ordinance that transfers funding from contingency to the Forsyth Tech Community College. It accounts for salary increases approved as part of the state budget. There are 44 locally funded positions. They are all sort of within our primary and statutory responsibility around maintenance, custodial, and security. So this is going to transfer $233,709 from contingency to match the state 4% salary adjustment.
Move approval.
Motion approved by Commissioner Bessie. I'll second that. Any discussion? All in favor, please hold up your hand. Motion that passes 6-0.
All right. Agenda items, we've done agenda item 6. So agenda item 7 is a resolution authorizing an increase to the project contingency for the Public Safety Center upfit project. You've got 2 associated budget ordinance amendments to go along with this. This just basically makes available $9,151 for an additional office space as they're kind of wrapping up that project for the Real-Time Information Center supervisor.
Move approval.
Motion approved by Commissioner Plyler.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wizenhunt. Any discussion? All in favor, please hold up your hand. Motion passes 6-0. Commissioner Linville is out to the moment.
Okay. You've got 2 grant items. Item 8 is a resolution authorizing acceptance of a 2023 Historic Preservation Fund matching grant to continue the Forsyth County Historical Survey update from the Forsyth County Historic Resources Commission. There's a $29,900 grant. There's a $20,000 match. Half is going to be on the county, half of it's on the participating municipalities.
Move approval.
Motion approved by Commissioner Plyler.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wizenhunt. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes 6-0.
Agenda item 9 is a resolution authorizing submission of an application to the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency to apply for and accept if awarded a 2024 urgent repair program funding in the amount of $132,000.
Move approval.
Motion approved by Commissioner Plyler. Second by Commissioner McDaniel. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes 6-0.
We have quite a few contractual matters. Item 10 is a resolution authorizing an interlocal agreement between Forsyth County and the North Carolina Department of Public Safety and Division of Emergency Management for participation in mutual aid response. That is that statewide agreement that's been updated.
Move approval.
Motion approved by Commissioner Plyler.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wizenhunt. Any discussion? All in favor, please hold up your hand. Motion carries 6-0.
Agenda item 11 is a resolution ratifying and authorizing execution of an interlocal agreement between Forsyth County and the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Board of Education for comprehensive school public health nursing services for medically fragile and special needs kids. This was a $455,775.51 agreement, and it relates to the Children's Center, the Special Children's School, Petrie Elementary, Lawrence Middle, and Carter High School.
Move approval.
Motion approved by Commissioner Plyler. I'll second that. Any discussion? All in favor, please say, hold up your hand. Thank you. Motion carries 6-0.
Agenda item 12 is a resolution authorizing execution of amendment to an agreement between Forsyth County and Vanguard Professional Staffing Incorporated for the purpose of increasing services and funding. This will, total payments under this will not exceed $75,000 through June 30th of 2024.
Move approval.
Motion approved by Commissioner Plyler. Second by Commissioner McDaniel. Any discussion? All in favor, please hold up your hand. Motion carries 6-0.
All right. Item 13 is a resolution authorizing execution of amendment to an agreement between Forsyth County and the Resource Company Incorporated for the purpose of increasing services and funding for the Department of Social Services, increased funding by $60,000.
Move approval.
Motion approved by Commissioner Plyler, second by Commissioner McDaniel. Any discussion? All in favor, please hold up your hand. Motion passes 6-0.
Agenda item 14 is a resolution authorizing the execution of an amendment to an agreement between Forsyth County and Information, Inc. for the purpose of additional software license to provide hosting and maintenance services for the iReception application at Department of Social Services, not to exceed $77,935 for the remainder of this year and $88,000 for next fiscal
Move
year.
approval.
Motion approved by Commissioner Plyler. Second by Commissioner McDaniel. Any discussion? All in favor, please hold up your hand. Motion passes 6-0.
All right. Agenda item 15 is a resolution approving the purchase of law enforcement body-worn cameras, in-vehicle cameras, and conducted energy weapons, as well as all their related equipment, materials, supplies, licenses, data storage and sharing, and services under an exception to the bidding laws codified in North Carolina General Statutes, and awarding a contract to Axon Enterprise. This agreement would be in effect for the current changes, the current year and 5 years. There's no impact on the current year and FY25 budgets, but total payments over the life of this, which is really, as you have heard, is a big part of the technology that that the department relies on, would be $5,805,425.03.
Move approval.
Motion approved by Commissioner Platter.
Second.
Second by Commissioner McDaniel. Commissioner Wisenhunt, sorry, Vice Chair Wisenhunt, I apologize. Any discussion? All in favor, please hold up your hand. Motion carries 6-0.
All right. Agenda item 16 has three parts. They're a resolution awarding a contract to NAFCare for medication-assisted treatment in jail services, to Addiction Recovery Care Association for the same, and then the resolution awarding a contract to Insight Human Services for the MAT in the jail as well. If I could get Randy Hunsucker to come on up, there was one slight change, I think, in the resolution. It spoke to intensive outpatient that probably should not be in that. So I think Randy's going to ask that you modify that just a little bit.
Yes, sir. The background information states everything correctly, but in Part A, the second paragraph, in the next to last line says intensive inpatient treatment is what NAFCare will be doing there. I think the intent was that they're getting treatment services in the detention center, but they're not getting intensive inpatient treatment. So we wanted to suggest striking the words intensive inpatient treatment, comma.
Move approval of the modified version.
Motion approved by Commissioner Platter, second by Commissioner McDaniel. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes 6-0.
All right. Agenda item 17 is a resolution authorizing execution of a lease agreement between Forsyth County and WEAE LLC to manage and operate accommodation facilities within Tanglewood Park. As you know, Providence, actually the Triad Community Kitchen and the food bank is kind of backed out of the administration and management of those facilities. While we were able to find a vendor, I do understand from Chris Weevil that they are actually in the audience this afternoon, but it essentially would put under lease the manor house, the guest house, the apartment lodge, and then the 4 cottages.
Move approval.
Motion approved by Commissioner Platter.
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Wisenhunt. Any discussion? I'd just like to say thank you all for being here today. Why don't you stand up so I can kind of see you? Good, thank you. And we appreciate you taking over basically the support services out at Tanglewood, and we certainly wish you well and look forward to visiting with you as a customer. So, all in favor, please raise your hand, please. Motion passes 6-0. Perhaps, I talked to Commissioner Linville right before, and he actually, I thought, was coming back in, and I know he even expressed, he said he thought he was not feeling well. Could we see if he's still here?
Checking, yeah.
See if he's around, and
that'd be good. Yep. All right, we'll go ahead and carry on. Agenda item 18 is a resolution authorizing execution of an amendment to a contract with Samet Corporation at the guaranteed maximum price for the Tanglewood Clubhouse. There were two options that were presented to you. The option that is actually in the agenda item would approve a guaranteed maximum price of $14,849,678 with a $400,000 contingency built into that. You've heard a lot about that project. That project, from the staff perspective, frankly, a year ago we got a price quote, came in about $11 million. Kind of came back to the board and said, is that the dollars that we kind of had identified the project at that level? And so at that point we said, let's go ahead and bid it. Let's go ahead and finish out design. And let's bring it back to the board. Like a lot of construction, it came back in more with a larger number. And at the staff level, we had pretty much walked away from it and said, that project's dead. At the same time, it was listed as a project in the legislative priorities with the General Assembly. And so we bring it to you today. It would not have been brought back to you, but we were so fortunate to get a $4 million appropriation straight from the General Assembly that it was close into the budget, But I just, I wanted to make it crystal clear that we would not have brought that project back were it not for that. I mean, really, the run-up in it, we really had to kind of shake our heads and kind of rethink that. But it is in front of you today, frankly, because we were successful at getting
Needs
that
to be
special
done.
permit.
I move approval.
Second,
We
and
have a
thank
motion
you,
approved
General
by Commissioner
Assembly.
Plowler, we have a second by Vice Chair Wizenhut. Discussion. Commissioner Bessie.
I'll vote to approve a project, but I'm persuaded, after walking around the site and discussing this further with staff, that we will be just as well served by the option that was listed as approximately $900 and some thousand less cost than the one that actually appears in the packet. I would like to make a substitute motion that we approve what's referred to as Concept 2 for the Tanglewood Clubhouse at the appropriately reduced total authorization. It is my understanding that the principal concern from staff was not that it would provide a less acceptable user experience, but that it would incur some additional operational costs, and that their best case estimate was $58,000 a year, even without taking into account the discounted value of money for that operational cost in the future. Basically, if we're talking about $1 million, it would be over 17 years before we have ended up paying as much in operational costs as we would save in the construction costs. A more recent estimate that I've heard from staff is that we'd actually need $700,000 less, and that would still be over 12 years before we'd hit the break-even point. So I would make a substitute motion that we approve Concept 2 at the appropriately revised level of maximum contract obligation.
Substitute motion by Commissioner Bessie.
A second.
We have a second by Commissioner McDaniel. I apologize, Commissioner McDaniel. Discussion.
Yes. This project has been debated and debated and debated. Cuts have been made. The staff at Tanglewood is short-staffed now. This is just going to add to their burden of being, I don't know how they're going to do it, every day, 2 times a day. I think it's very, very inconsiderate of our staff who work so hard at Tanglewood. I don't think we need to add to their maintenance, and I do not accept this amendment.
I'd probably make a comment that, and I appreciate staff offering a tour and a visit, which was very helpful last week, and I did not focus on particularly the issue of the underground storage, other than I did see the gasoline-powered golf carts sitting in the staging area, kind of on a patio, if you will, that would be the same place they would be where the carts would remain. And I do, we're going to, of course, we're going to be out of gasoline, I hope, in the future, and it will be all electric golf carts. And I guess I see we've really got down partly on this project to the experience of the user, which does get at those people from the wedding venue, the opportunity to have the kind of a veranda. It is a beautiful vista from there. That's part of the piece. And as the better that is, we have had, in fact, I asked the question what our receipts have improved by since we fixed the golf course about 2.5 years ago, and it's running $700,000, $800,000 more per year. We will realize probably not anywhere near that, but certainly in probably the 5-6 digits improvement. And I actually think that user experience for the golfers, of which there are many, I think probably the underground storage is worth $700,000. I mean, there's some opportunity issues in that, and because you're still building a retaining wall regardless. Either you build a retaining wall up earlier, supports the stilts, or you build it out front, or you do whatever, and that's where a lot of the big cost is actually the rebar and so forth to put that retaining wall together. So the space is not a room down below. It is space that can be used, but it's really not minor conditioning. And I think it does probably make it more efficient to run in the long haul. And the staff, and it is an ongoing back and forth daily. It is not just it's not just in the morning and the evening. We've wrestled with it. I had a chance to speak some with Commissioner Bessie, so I will not be able to support the amendment. They made a motion, but in fact, we could. I know that Commissioner Linville he is not feeling well, but he did want to come in. Particularly, this was a point of interest for him, and we could maybe delay our vote for a moment till he arrives.
Yeah, you know, I could jump on to the other items, and then we'll come back and see kind of if he rolls back in. You want to do that?
That sounds like a plan.
Okay, let's just do that. Agenda item 19 is a resolution awarding a contract to Trad Roofing Company for the Bridges Juvenile Crisis and Assessment Center re-roofing project. The amount there that was bid, and we had a good grouping of bids, and the low bid was $315,950.
Move approval.
Motion approved by Commissioner Plyler.
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Wizenhunt. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes 6-0.
Agenda item 20 is a resolution awarding and authorizing execution of a contract for an on-site fleet-related inventory management contract. You heard from Kirby. It's really a pilot project around taking a look at how we manage inventory. It's with Genuine Parts Company, which is Napa Integrated Business Solutions. It's an amount not to exceed $223,643. And as you heard from Kirby, the idea is that we'd actually do some staffing reductions.
Move approval.
Have a motion by Commissioner Plyler.
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Wizenhunt. Maybe the one question I'd have, and maybe Kirby doesn't have to answer it, but what is sort of the evaluation piece to this in terms of when do we take a look at that and sort of decide, and how long is this? I just want to make sure I got that straight, because I think there's a potential savings there, but I have some buts on that one.
There's a lot of buts. So I think the important thing is that we develop some metrics once we enter into the contract to then bring back to you to show you the potential effectiveness of the program. Hopefully what you're going to see is some financial savings there. And then you also see some efficiency improvements. And we need to find a way to measure that and show you what that looks like. If we were to propose an extended contract beyond fiscal 25, it would have to be rebid. And so I think that's a natural time to then say, here are the metrics, this was successful, and we think we should rebid. Maybe that's a great time to provide a report in that respect. And then again, it would have to be rebid. And how do we do that in terms of potentially merging some fleet aspects with the school system?
So we're looking at a year and a half.
Yes, sir.
Basically.
Yep.
All right. That answers my question. All in favor, please say aye. Is any other discussion? I didn't want to jump the gun.
What are we voting? Which one are we voting on?
We are voting on item 21 regarding, item 20, a resolution awarding the authorization and execution of a contract of on-site fleet-related inventory management services, actually with Napa.
Mr. Chairman, request that you go back to item 17.
We are. We held off voting. We have not voted on item 17 yet to wait for you to arrive. So all in favor of item 20, we have a motion and a second. Please raise your hand. Motion carries unanimously. Now we can return to item 18, I think it is.
So item 18 is a resolution authorizing execution of amendment with contract with Samet Corporation for the guaranteed maximum price for the Tanglewood Clubhouse project. There is a motion and a second and a substitute motion and a second on the floor.
The pending motion is a motion to amend the resolution to a lesser amount. I'm not exactly sure what that lesser amount is, but it's the option that would include the lesser amount for the clubhouse.
So it's to not have the underground, the basement or underground storage for the golf carts. It would basically eliminate that basement, if you were area, and you would be having another location to do the golf carts that would permanently be back and forth between a shed and coming forward up into the patio next to where what will be the new clubhouse.
Okay, yes, that's golf cart
storage
place would be detached away from it.
Yes, and it would be permanently detached. This is not the temporary while we're under construction, it's permanently.
Okay, well, whoever made that motion,
The
just
motion was made
explain
by
what
Commissioner
their thought
Bessie,
was.
seconded by, no, that was Commissioner Bessie, and seconded by Commissioner McDaniel.
McDaniel.
I believe I got that correct.
Just briefly, can you do it, don't let Mr. Martin do it, you do it.
Yes.
Briefly.
Hurt my feelings.
Commissioner Linville, thank you. My reasoning is that the additional cost of construction, with today's dollars, we're looking at between $700,000 and $900,000, and it would take over 12 years to hit a break-even point if we're talking about the estimated additional operational costs from staff of $58,000 a year. And that I think it's fiscally prudent for us to reduce the construction cost and go with that option.
Okay, and the substitute motion, what was it?
That's it.
That
That's
was
the
the
substitute. We had a motion and a second to approve.
Okay, the original motion was as it is.
As it is.
And then
Right.
the
This is the
substitute motion was that.
Yeah, and basically, if you'll recall, staff had presented us originally with two options. The one that's in the agenda is the higher cost. I'm proposing that we approve instead the alternative option, the concept 2 for the Tanglewood Clubhouse, which would have the slightly reduced cost. Actually, significantly actually reduced costs, $700,000 and $900,000.
James Anderson, would you come forward, please? And the question is, before you get up here, is save a little time, the outside, I'll just call it the shell of the building, the material, outside material. And I understand it's some sort of composite material or something. Is the life of it at least 50 or 60 years?
I believe the typical life expectancy of like a Hardy type siding is about 50 years. It's a cement-based product, so it's not going to break down under weathering. You do have to occasionally repaint it to keep it looking nice. But that certainly is going to be a lot longer lifespan than the original material that we VE'd out, which was the wood siding.
Well, the reason I asked that question, I thought surely wouldn't build a building at that cost if the outside protection of it wouldn't at least 50 years. To me, most commercial buildings should have something 50 years plus. You probably still be around, and the courthouse building is still going to be there and have some more life. I just think it's going to be 75 years. I think it's thought floats around within government that if a building gets 50 years old, take it down and put something else in place. And I just don't subscribe to that kind of thinking. I guess, come along too many generations back.
Other questions for James?
Okay.
Sorry, were you finished with, got another question for James?
No. Okay, I'm on, James is one that said the outside part of the building's gonna last 50 plus.
There you go.
So if you don't, somebody will be questioning.
Well, there's another motion that does not add outside, it adds inside the new building. And it would save time for our staff, who would not have to be moving golf carts back and forth all day long. And they already have a shortage, so, but that's the first motion.
Well, I wonder if one question leads to another, or an answer leads to another question. If the fact that we did something and Commissioner Bessie has explained his point of view, somewhere along the way that somebody some years from now think, well, we got to have something different than this. It's just too far to transport these golf carts from one place to the other. I got mixed feelings about the whole thing, but the representative, Mr. Kyle Hall that represents part of the Western Forsyth and Stokes, has secured $4 million from the state, and to not support that, that's just kind of a little bit hard, maybe not as hard as the vote had earlier about the school. It's troubled the chairman, vice chairman for so long.
Mr. Chairman?
Okay.
Just briefly, I would note that under either the original motion or the substitute motion, it'll get built. It'll get built.
And I'd make one more comment on the substitute motion, is that if the payback is 12 years or 17 years or whatever it is, if it's going to last 50 years, we will benefit for at least 30 years of that savings, and we're going to have a better product. And when we're down to the amount of money we're talking about now, $700,000 to $900,000, I think to have this case, a better solution is one, particularly when there is a staff cost associated with it in terms of work and those things. In fact, over time, in the 50-year period, that's going to go up. So I think from the, if we're at this point, we're still going to realize savings from that.
Well, I wasn't taking into account the discounted value of the money. I mean, $1 million today is going to be worth substantially more than that in 12, 17 years.
I think it would still, in any kind of your present value dollar calculations, it's going to come out as a savings over 50 years.
Okay, so Mr. Chairman, to be clear, the substitute motion is what is up for vote.
The substitute motion is up for the vote now, which is whether to.
The actual motion before the board is a motion to amend the original motion. Yes. So it's a motion to change the language in the motion so it would read that you would build a lesser cost building.
Well, isn't that just, okay, that's, okay, I was going to I'll ask you that later on. Go ahead.
All right.
So the one question, excuse me, Chair Martin, that I had was about this cost as it relates to staff, and I appreciate Commissioner Bessie, giving me some background information as he went to the site to get more information. There was a foresight that it could cost $58,000 additionally a year if we didn't build it at the highest point price. And so I wondered, where did that calculation come from? Because in my mind, I said, well, maybe it's just a schedule adjustment than it is more manpower, which costs.
I'm going to turn it over to Chris Weevil, Parks and Rec Director, for that.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good afternoon.
Could you repeat your question one more time? I was in motion, trying to listen and walk.
So the question is, how do you calculate that it will cost an additional $58,000 a year if we don't purchase the building at the highest point?
Okay.
Price point.
Basically, by building the bifurcated or detached facility, the cart storage shed would be about 1,100 feet separated from the new building, or from the actual pro shop where we would actually have the carts staged each day. That's about a 0.2 of a mile a trip back and forth. It would take us we would need about 3 additional staff to do that. We need to stage about 12 to 24 carts every day, 12 carts for the championship course and 12 carts for the Reynolds course. It's about an 8-minute round trip from the top of the hill where the clubhouse is situated now to the location where the detached cart facility would be. We would actually have to have a person drive down, and hook up a cart. They can be towed. We can actually tow 2 carts at a time So if we took 2 people down there, we could bring back 6 carts. Then we'd have to take 1 cart back to go pick up, back and forth. It's just kind of like a little math problem we've got going there. But we have calculated it will take 3 additional staff personnel to do that each day. It'll fluctuate, during the season. That's averaged out over the years, and it's roughly $58,000 for the price, the classification that we have for the cart attendants, doing that particular job. That's where that number came from.
If you think about it, there's about 60,000 rounds of golf played, and if you assume it's a very busy golf course, and so you're going to be shuttling carts
All the time.
kind of up the hill and back and up the hill and back. And so the benefit of having the cart storage under the building is that it's all right there. When the golfers come in, they put their golf clubs in the cart, it's right there. They take off, they bring the cart right back there. You basically have to create a system to just move carts 0.2 of a mile, and there'll be thousands and thousands of them. And so from an efficiency perspective, I think from cost recovery, absolutely, but you can almost envision what you got to do to move those carts.
May I ask a clarifying question? Will you have all the carts outside if you have the underneath storage, or are you going to need to restage additional carts from underneath?
No, they'll be underneath. If they're underneath, that's where they'll be stored. We'll be able to go from the pro shop to the basement and pull out. On a nice sunny day, we may go ahead and pull, 10 or 12 carts out just to have those ready to go. We can, have the customers will walk down there with their tickets, hand it to the cart attendant, and everything kind of moves from there. And then as we get busier, we can pull them out, as we need them. That's kind of how we do it now. The carts also will come back once the golf round is done. They'll come back to that same particular location, basically just on the other end of the building, the way it's designed now. And we have a cart wash. We clean them up. We have them, prepped for the next person. We store them back in the barn and then plug them back up and get them, charged for the next round.
So you're going to have the golfer walk around the building to the...
No, it's a spot where they just drop it off. It's still right there at the building. Our staff actually will do that and put it.
So your staff will still be going underneath to bring more carts out to where they...
Everything comes back to that central location. I apologize.
Thank you.
And just to mention too, one thing that I did leave off, there will be some savings if we, with the golf cart lease, because we will have to buy like the tow bars, the towing equipment that we'll have to put on those. So there is some savings that we'll have there if we have the, single facility.
Any other questions?
Didn't get it.
We're voting on the substitute motion.
It's driving me crazy.
Everybody knows what we're voting on.
Yeah.
All righty. All in favor, please hold up your hand. We have 3 in favor. All those opposed? Motion is defeated. We're now ready to return to the original motion that was made by Commissioner Plyler and seconded by Vice Chair Wizenhut. Any discussion on that proposal?
Vote for it.
If not, all those in favor, please
Mr. Chairman.
raise your hand. Yes?
I think I've misvoted. My vote is for the original motion.
We're
That's what we
considering
get
the
rid of.
original motion now.
Yeah.
Okay.
All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion carries unanimously. All right. Thank you.
Praise the Lord.
All right, agenda item 21 is a resolution awarding a contract for purchase of a Ford Transit 350 van. This is off the state contract with Piedmont Truck Center Incorporated in the amount of $84,557.30.
Move approval.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Plyler,
Second.
second by Vice Chair Wizenhut. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion, I'll say unanimously now because Commissioner Linville has left.
All right, agenda item 22 is a resolution awarding and authorizing execution of a contract for the construction and mounting of a 12-foot walk-around light rescue body to Custom Truck and Body Works. This is an amount not to exceed $182,910 in amounts that equipment on
Move
that.
approval.
Motion approved by Commissioner Plyler,
Second.
second by Vice Chair Wizenhut. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion carries unanimously now.
Agenda item 23 is a resolution authorizing execution of an agreement with Overdrive Digital Incorporated for the North Carolina Library Digital Consortium in an amount not to exceed $131,836.71.
Move approval.
Motion approved by Commissioner Plyler.
Second.
Second by Commissioner McDaniel. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion carries unanimously.
All right.
Chairman, if I may, I just wanted to tell the library staff, thank you so very much for your patience today, and happy holidays.
Thank you.
Okay, thank
I've been waiting a long time.
Wish it was a long time ago on the agenda. I know.
We're almost there. Agenda item 24 is a resolution awarding and authorizing execution of a contract between Forsyth County and Mark III Brokerage Incorporated for comprehensive employee benefits consulting services for insurance flexible spending accounts, short and long-term disability and wellness initiatives not to exceed $50,000, and that was competitive.
Move approval.
Motion approved by Commissioner Plyler. Second by Commissioner McDaniel. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion carries unanimously.
Agenda item 25 is a resolution authorizing execution of an agreement between Forsyth County and Diligent Corporation to provide agenda management services, 3-year agreement in an amount not to exceed $79,774.
Move approval.
Motion approved by Commissioner Plyler.
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Wizenhut. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion carries unanimously.
All right, I'll hand over the appointments to Vice Chair Wizenhut.
Thank you. Our first appointment is the Adult Care Home Community Advisory Committee. There could be 11 appointments. We did not have any applicants, so I move that we continue to a future meeting.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Oh, raise your hand, excuse me. Apologize. Raise your hand. Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Animal Services Advisory Board, we had one appointment for the acting chairman, president of the Forsyth County Veterinarians Association. We did not have an applicant. Move that we continue to a future meeting.
Second, any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion carries unanimously.
Community Appearance Commission, Winston-Salem, Forsyth County. There could have been 2 appointments. We did not have an applicant, so I move that we continue to a future meeting.
Second by Commissioner Bessie. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion carries unanimously.
Community Child Protection Team, Child Fatality Prevention Team. We could have had 2 appointments. One is for DSSCPS Parent Advocate, and one is for Healthcare Provider. We had one citizen wishing to serve as the Healthcare Provider, Megan Goodpasture. I move that we approve this by acclamation and continue the remaining appointments.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Plyler. Any discussion? Please raise your hand if you're in favor.
Forsyth County Home and Community Care Block Grant Advisory Committee, there could have been 3 appointments. We did not have applications, so I move that we continue to a future meeting.
Second.
Second by Commissioners Bessie and Plyler. All in favor, please raise your hand.
Forsyth County Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, we had 2 appointments available. We had one citizen wishing to serve. That was a person under 21, Nizer Bent Sylvestra. I move that we approve him by acclamation and continue the remaining appointments.
Second the motion.
Second by Commissioner Plyler. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand.
Forsyth County Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, we had one appointment for a 2-year term. It's for substance abuse professional. We had 2 applicants, citizens wishing to serve. Sonia Long Williams, substance abuse professional, and Luca Mitchell, he's also a substance abuse professional. You may vote for one.
I don't have that.
Just write it on.
Go ahead, dude. Hang on. Excuse me, I apologize.
I gave it to her. She's got it.
One second. You're all right.
I'll run down here.
I filled all that out before the meeting started.
Hang on, I apologize, I haven't been
That's
watching.
okay.
I've been paying attention to something else. Sorry.
Hit it.
I didn't sign it either.
It needs a battery.
Badly.
Right. Back in gear.
Ms. Vice Chairman, Sonia Long Williams received 6 votes.
Thank you.
All righty, very good.
Forsyth Memorial Hospital Triad Region Board of Trustees, there's 7 appointments. The capacities County Commissioner appointee. Incumbents wishing to serve is Franklin Chi, M.D., Laurie Harding, and Ashley Peruth. Citizens wishing to serve is Taylor Williams, Summer McGee, Annette Wright, and Randall Kane Jr. These can be appointed by acclamation, and I move that we do so.
Second. We have a second by Commissioner Bessie. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion carries unanimously.
Industrial Facilities and Pollution Control Financing Authority, there's 4 appointments. We did not have any applicants, so I move that we continue to a future meeting.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Plyler. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand.
Novant Health Incorporated Board of Trustees, 1 appointment is a county commissioner appointee. The citizen wishing to serve is Charles Hooser. This can be approved by acclamation. I move we do so.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Plyler. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand.
Nursing Home Community Advisory Committee for Forsyth County, there could have been 10 appointments. We have an incumbent wishing to serve, Sylvia Tyndale, a citizen. That was an incumbent wishing to serve. Citizens wishing to serve is Lucas Baroon and Willie King, and these can be appointed by acclamation.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Plyler. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand.
Piedmont Triad Regional Workforce Development Board, 2 appointments, 1 for business and 1 for community-based. Citizen wishing to serve is Lee Chang. He's community-based. I move that we appoint this by acclamation and continue the remaining appointment.
Second by Commissioner Bessie. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand.
Public Art Commission, 1 appointment. We did not have an applicant. I move we continue to a future meeting.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Plyler. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Sorry, raise your hand.
hand.
In the drill.
Zoning Board of Adjustments, Winston-Salem, 1 appointment is a capacity regular member who resides within 1 mile outside of the city limits of Winston-Salem. The citizen wishing to serve is Gregory Hairston. This can be appointed by acclamation.
There's second by Commissioner Bessie. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand.
That's all our appointments.
All right. Thank you very much.
Do we not have the resolution approving the 2024 Commissioners Committee appointment summary?
We do, I see that.
Yes, it's on the agenda.
Yeah, it's there. It's the resolution approving the 2024 Commissioners Committee appointment summary. I move that we accept this.
I'll second that. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand.
Okay. All right, so we have one tax administration item. It's a resolution extending the 2024 tax listing period. That'll extend it to February 15th, as has been your practice.
Move approval.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Plyler. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion carries unanimously.
All right, we've got 2 reports, fuel surcharge franchise report and the October 2023 contribution-based benefit cap report.
Move approval that we accept the reports.
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Wizenhut. Any discussion? All in favor, please hold up your hand.
We do have, so that is it for the agenda. We do have a brief item for closed session, but if there's any discussion before that, anything else we need to?
Mr. Linville actually mentioned he wanted about a report on the audit committee, and I can just simply say that I thought we had a good meeting. We're going to convene again on January 25th to look at the plan of work for this year and look at really a measure of risk assessment on the internal auditor's work. We had an update on our financial work with our regular audit, which was good, and we will continue to work on both of those. Very good.
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to take this opportunity to say Merry Christmas to all the staff and all the employees, and say one more time, we have the very best in North Carolina. Thank you all so much.
I think everyone will ditto that, the goodwill and good wishes in this late hour on this day.
After a day like today, I'm glad you feel that way. So that's right.
Why don't you read the motion for closed session?
I will certainly do that. Need to ask the board to consider a motion to go into closed session, to discuss a matter to establish or to instruct the public body staff or negotiating agents concerning the position to be taken on or by or on behalf of the public body in negotiating the price or other material terms of a contract or proposed contract for the acquisition of real property by purchase, option, exchange, or lease pursuant to provisions of General Statute 143, 1811A5. And since no other business come before the board at this meeting, following the closed session, the meeting will be adjourned.
Second.
I'll make that motion. Commissioner Plyler, did you second? Did you say second? Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. All righty.